Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in our webinar about the fintech opportunities in India. Apparently, there are some issues with Teams, so it's possible that some people will come a little bit later to join us. So this webinar is organized by the FIT office in Mumbai in cooperation with FIT Delhi. I'm the Trade Commissioner of the Post in Delhi, and therefore I was asked to be your moderator today. We are here today to get a sneak peek into the fintech ecosystem in India and how the government supports global fintechs looking at India market entry. Why India? India is ranked as the third largest startup ecosystem worldwide and amongst the fastest growing fintech markets in the world, and ranking highest globally in the fintech adoption rate, along with China. India has emerged as Asia's biggest destination for fintech deals, and out of a total of 21 unicorns in India, around 1/3 are fintech companies. The major driver for this growth is the existing base of financial institutions, largely underutilized domestic market, smartphone adoption rate, access to funding, and most importantly, government policies focused on financial inclusion and digital economy. In the next 5 years, the Indian fintech industry is on track to add another $100 billion in market valuation. Therefore, it is important now, more than ever, for Flemish fintech companies to prioritize India in their internationalization strategy. I will now introduce the first speaker to you, Mr. Hemant Kishagar. He is India fintech leader at EY, a global consultancy firm with a strong focus on fintech. In India, EY is managing the Mumbai Fintech Hub's global market access program by supporting them in the facilitation of bilateral flow of fintechs and explore collaboration with global fintech hubs. Hemant has over 12 years of experience across fintech, technology, consulting, and insurance. He will take us through the fintech ecosystem in India and what makes the country a land of opportunities for Flemish fintech companies. Hemant, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Babette. Extremely happy to be here on the forum. Thank you for inviting us. I'm very happy to be on this session with my colleague from Mumbai Fintech Hub, who would be presenting after me. What I'll do is I'll quickly share my screen for the deck which I'm going to present. Of course, I have a deck that I'm going to go through that takes you through the fintech opportunity which is available in India. But please feel free to stop me at any point and on any slide. And if you have any questions specific to the Indian market, I would be more than happy to share. Some of the thunder that I have, I think Babette has stolen that from me. One was the $100 billion value or valuation that the Indian fintech market is going to reach. But then there are other few things that I would cover. Please feel free to stop me anywhere. Please let me know whenever the screen is visible from my side, and I will continue with the presentation.
Hemant, the screen is perfectly visible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So what I wanted to start with is, if you look at the global market and the number of fintechs, you would see that India stands out completely differently, because we are about a 3 trillion economy, but just behind that 3 trillion economy, when you look at from fintech perspective, you would see that different numbers being thrown around, but we have approximately anywhere in the range of 2,500 to 3,100 to 200 fintech companies which are based in India. And all that development, most of it has happened in last 10 years. So most of the fintech would be within 10 years of duration. Of course, I know at that duration, at certain point, it was not called fintech. But now, as it's called fintech, we have about 3,200 fintech companies approximately within the country, which is much more than if you look at any other emerging or developed economy, except maybe UK and United States of America and China, of course, considering the size of the economy. But it is one of the most developed market that you would see, as Babette was highlighting. Now, just to give you a lay of the land, it is not purely from fintech perspective, but when you look at it from the overall financial services perspective as well, it is a massive market. If you look at it, there are about 20 public sector banks. There is some consolidation which is going on, so there it will become smaller number of public sector bank, which is basically government banks. But the size of the banks would be really massive. That means they will have a really high capacity or ticket size of buying technology from global providers. Then you have about 22 private sector banks. There are 44 foreign banks. So that means there are multiple international foreign banks which have set up base in the country, considering the size of the market. Then there are approximately 44 regional rural banks, and then there are 1,500 cooperative banks. Now, if you just look at the lay of the land from purely banking perspective as well, it is a massive market for banking technology right there, right? Because a lot of these players are on legacy technologies, but they really want to move it to the digital world. And private sector has already moved really fast, but the rest of the banks are also moving in that direction. Now, the entire financial services market in India is controlled by 4 regulators. We have one regulator called RBI, which is our banking regulator. Then the other regulator is SEBI, which is our capital markets regulator. Then you have IRDAI, which is the insurance regulator. And then you have a PFRDA, which is the pensions regulator within the country. In addition to that, we have NPCI, which runs the payments ecosystem, payments network in India. It is also considered a quasi regulator, considering that it runs the payment infrastructure, and now very famous for the faster payment or real time payment implementation of UPI within the country, which is one of the largest real time payment implementation that you will see in the world, much advanced in technology compared to even developed countries like UK or US, considering US is yet to implement the real-time payment system. Right now, if you look at all this development has been supported by multiple schemes and programs that have been run by government. Of course, I'll not go into each program, but the programs can be split into 2 major categories. One is a category where the startups are being supported, and another is a category in terms of financial services and financial services regulation being very supportive to the growth of the ecosystem, which have been implemented by the government, this government and the previous government as well. So that has really supported for growing it. One which a lot of you would be aware was Aadhaar supported, on which there was Jan Dhan Yojana, which basically brought 80% of our population in the country into a bankable population. Of course, there are still players within those 80% as well, which are underserved or not completely active, but at least now they have access to banking account. That means they are reachable. If you are running a fintech and you want to reach out to them and provide more services, then this is a bracket which was nowhere in the formal economy, has been brought into the formal economy. Still, there is 20% which needs to be penetrated. That means if there is any company which is working on financial inclusion, there is scope for them to bring people on from the unbankable side to the bankable side. And it looks percentage wise only 20%, but it is one of the largest unbanked population in the world when you go by absolute numbers. So that's there. And on ease of doing business, where India was not performing very well some time back, India has been continuously moving really fast in that direction. So doing business in India has become increasingly easy, especially in the financial services segment, which is a pretty advanced segment as far as different sectors if you consider. So that's how overall the lay of the land is now. Because of the lay on the land and the supportive ecosystem I spoke about, the fintech growth has moved in a very rapid pace within the country. If you look at the last year as well, there was about $2.7 billion in funding that was raised by Indian fintechs now, and which was split across multiple companies. If you look at the number of companies which are being established, fintech companies which are being established every year in India, it is comparable to the number of fintech companies which would be there overall in multiple countries. Now that shows that the market is so huge, so massive, that the VCs, local and international, are ready to bet on the market. That means the market is extremely underpenetrated and has extremely large potential, because of which everyone wants to bet on the market. And that's why the amount of funding which has been growing at a very rapid pace in recent times overall, if you see. And if you split it across the different segments which are there, the Indian market is not very different from multiple fintech markets, that it all started with payments, and so that means overall funding size wise also the payment segment is the largest, which was followed by alternate lending, which was the second immediate piece to come into picture, considering after a time payments does not provide the margin that people are looking for, and that way then they start moving towards lending, because that's where the real margins are. So then lending is the next piece, and after that, in the very recent time, that means last 2-3 years, we have been rapidly moving towards a lot of growth in the insurance tech and the wealth tech market as well. In between, everywhere, all those segments, there is banking tech and insurance tech from a perspective of companies that provides banking technology and insurance technology to established players. Those numbers are not normally completely covered in the funding because sometimes they do not recognize themselves as fintech. But believe me, that's a very, very massive segment which is growing very fast in the country, considering that the traditional players or the incumbents really want to catch up with the new age players which are in the market today. So that is making them buy the latest technologies or innovations that are available not only locally but globally, so that they can really compete. And location wise, if you see, the location of most of the fintechs are mostly spread between Delhi, Bangalore and Mumbai being the financial capital, Bangalore being the technology talent pool, and Delhi being a place where a lot of fintech which are consumer facing, which have established their base, considering low cost of operation within that. And plus it has a lot of talent as well, considering a lot of financial companies are established in Delhi as well. So that's how the overall ecosystem or market looks like. And if you look at it, sometime back, these players were mostly on the smaller side of the thing, but they are moving up the ladder really, really fast. Within the just the first half of this year, I think we have added about 3 or 4 fintech unicorns to the total unicorns that we have. That has taken us the total fintech unicorns in the country to 10 unicorns. And as Babette really pointed out, this is expected to be $100 billion valuation supporting market within very, very few years. And if you look at it, the amount of funding which has been raised in last 5 years amounts to about 11 to $12 billion, which really establishes the kind of opportunity that is India as a market, which has been now supported and believed in by most of the investor as well. And if you look at, these are just the recent investment rounds. I just wanted to showcase to people on the call today that what are the different kind of companies that are being invested in, and what are the different values that they are getting invested in. And if you see, increasingly the series within the country is also moving more towards series D, E, and C. That shows that the ecosystem has really matured, and that way the ticket sizes are increasing massively, and which is well distributed between insurance, wealth management, lending, and payments. So those are the 4 main categories that you will see a lot of funding being targeted and moving towards. And if you look at the investor side as well, you will see nearly every marquee investor in the world is involved in this market now. Every marquee investor that globally you will see, whether it is Europe or US or Southeast Asia or Japan for that matter, or China, from every geography, any marquee investor that you have seen in investing in fintech has a presence in India today and is investing in the Indian companies. Now, why this growth? What is spinning this story of the attractiveness of the market? The story is around 2 things, right? One is the huge or massive population that the country has. Second is, earlier people were not so interested in the country because it was very expensive to reach to this massive population of the market. But with a massive increase in internet penetration, India having one of the lowest cost of internet, because of which the penetration is very fast increasing, we having the cheapest mobile network in the world, because of which again a lot of people are coming on smartphones, and having an extremely low penetration as far as financial services is concerned, which is a very potent thing to have in a market, right? That means it is getting cheaper to access to these potential customers, and it is under penetrated market. That's what any entrepreneur would like to look out in a market where they see that there's a huge opportunity and the cost of acquisition is continuously going down with every year. So that is what is spinning the story, India's story, which is there, because of which a lot of international companies are coming to the country. Plus, the country is welcoming for that. The government is supporting that, and Gaurav will go through some of the details of the different programs which government of Maharashtra is running to support international companies and welcoming them within the country to set up base. Now, when you come to the country, and when I said that the cost of capital is going, the cost of acquisition is going down, what is it based on? There are 2 factors. One, how easy is it to reach to them, which I spoke about, the internet penetration and smartphone. But beyond that as well, initially when you acquire customer, a lot of cost is involved when it is a paper-driven process. A lot of on-ground presence is required when it is very difficult to get documents from the customers that you want, and which has been really solved by establishing a infrastructure, a digital infrastructure which the government has set up, which you see in front of it. It is called India Stack. It has basically 4 layers. The first layer is the presence-less layer, which is your Aadhaar, which is the digital ID which has been provided to Indian citizens, which has already reached about 1.2 billion. So when I said it was a 1.3 billion population, about 90% of people are already covered. That all of them have a digital identity proof which can be taken into consideration when you're doing KYC. Of course, there are norms around KYC that you have to follow, but extremely easy if you're doing that. And then the country has also established something called a digi locker, where a digital version of all, for example, I'm an Indian citizen, of my all my documentary proof could be stored there. And when someone submits that proof to you as a address proof or a ID proof for KYC, that is as admissible as submitting an original. So that means you don't have to really gather a physical document, scan it, and all that is not required. The next one is cashless layer, which is I was talking about the real-time payment or faster payment implemented by the country. The UPI transaction volume, I've just put something for December, but it is upwards of 2 billion now in INR terms, and it is only going to go up. And it is extremely easy way to transact or provide cash to the customer or collect. So basically, cash in, cash out becomes extremely easy. The next future thing, which is actually happening right now, the next layer is that the movement of data. And if you look at any, even the most evolved economy, when you want to provide lending or you want to provide any other service, when you take data from someone, there was no easy way to do it. That means either you are taking physical documents, basically your bank documents, and scanning them and reading them, or if you are in US, for example, you are getting access to the customer's user ID and password and then scraping their customer data. That is getting replaced by a digital infra being put in place, through which you can request for the data from the consumer, and the consumer will digitally provide you an access to his financial data with a clear limitation on what purpose you can use the data, what duration you can use the data, and what duration you can store the data. That means the customer will finally have full control, but the entire thing will happen digitally. That means the cost of acquisition and onboarding now, because of the last step, becomes extremely low. Now, if you look at the overall market from a B2C perspective, you will see that a lot of penetration within the country has happened in the affluent and the mass affluent kind of segment, which means these are the ones who are more educated, more open to adopting fintech services. They have better financial literacy, because of which that a lot of penetration has happened in that segment, especially, as I said, around payments and lending, but insurance and investments are fast growing. This is a high level view. Of course, it can be split further, but if you look at the B2C market segment, across lending, wealth, insurance, there's a lot of competition within the country. If you look at this large number, which I spoke about 3,200 odd fintechs being in place, a lot of them are playing in the B2C segment. That means the competition is extremely high. I'm not saying then that the opportunity is low, but the opportunity is so massive that there is still space for multiple players to come in. But the B2C segment is a very, very highly competitive space, especially in the payments and lending space. On the wealth reg platform side, I would say still the market is pretty much open. There are new segments which are coming up. So if you are in a completely new segment in the B2C arena and you want to exploit the market is wide open. Neobank is one segment which I've highlighted there, which has really opened up now. We do not have a digital bank kind of model, but we have our own Indian flavor of neobanks, where you could partner with a traditional bank to provide banking service to the customer. Now, from a B2B segment, the market is completely open. Then not a lot had happened earlier in this B2B segment, which again can be split between services that are provided to SMEs, all layers of SMEs, and then the services which are provided to large corporates. Large corporates pretty much served by the traditional financial institutions and prefer a high touch kind of model. But the mid-size enterprises, the SMEs, the MSMEs, and the micro players, that market is highly competitive. The market is wide open. Should throw you a number that the lending requirement of MSME, the market size is about estimated between $250 billion to $400 billion. That means that is the market which is yet to be penetrated. So B2B is a wide market. If you're playing in that segment, I think this is the right time to get into the market and play. This is again a high level view. It shows which are the segments that are little saturated, others which are not saturated. And you'll see in the B2B, there are much more white spaces that you would see that are yet open, and you can really play in that market and establish yourself. Now, what is driving this story? As I spoke about, if you look at just the penetration that the country has in terms of credit, the country has in terms of lending to MSME, which is $240 billion credit gap, which I'm talking about, the number of wealth customers which are there, the penetration of that, the insurance penetration within the country, it is extremely underpenetrated market. That means the opportunity is huge. It is just that it's a different market. So when you come into the Indian market, you will have to play by the rules that the market has, adjust according to that. It's a very price sensitive market. So whenever you come into the market, I think the priority that you should go, especially if you're in the B2B segment, is to get your initial customer fast. You may have to bleed on your first 1 or 2 customers, but try to get marquee names, large brands which are leaders in their own markets. If you're going behind a bank or a insurance, get them, and then it is very easy to then play in the market and get other customers. So that those are only few quick comments that I had, but happy to provide more inputs and more comments specifically in your segment if you want to get more information. Just one slide I want to cover. I think any presentation today is not complete without covering COVID. We are under the second wave of COVID. It has become extremely difficult, but purely from fintech perspective, the impact has been positive on payments, insurance, wealth tech segments. The impact was negative on lending as far as delinquency is concerned, but it has become really positive as far as the number of people applying for short-term unsecured loans, considering a lot of people are going through phases where they have lost jobs or are in a difficult period to support their medical requirements and all that. So that way there is negative and positive both on the lending side. Capital markets is doing really well. People have started investing more in capital markets. The number of demat accounts which have been opened in the last 3-4 months have been unforeseen before. It was never expected that those many demat accounts will get opened. And with all the digitization which is going up, RegTech of course is picking up, considering supervisory control and regulatory control has become extremely important, and the regulators are extremely keen on it. So that way that segment, which a little nascent on our side, is growing really fast. I had limited time and a big market to cover. So what I've tried covering is basically how large the market is, a quick view on what segments are doing well, what segments are growing, and some impact of what is driving the India fintech story. I'll take a pause there, and I'm more than happy to take up questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Hemant. I think you made it very clear that there are a lot of possibilities in India. I will now move to the second speaker, Mr. Gaurav Singhal. Then in the end, we can take questions, or if people want to drop questions in the chat, please feel free. So Mr. Singhal is the FinTech Incubation Manager for the government of Maharashtra. For the Flemish people, Mumbai is in the state of Maharashtra. The Mumbai Fintech Hub was established by government of Maharashtra for implementing its fintech policy with a vision to convert Mumbai into a global fintech hub. It provides an ecosystem encompassing the entire infrastructure, organizations, and people within the hub. With a rich experience of working with private and public entities, Gaurav will talk us through the various initiatives of the state government on how they work as an active enabler to the fintech ecosystem. He will also touch up on the on-ground support provided to foreign fintech startups exploring opportunities in India, Maharashtra. Mr. Singhal, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Babette. Thank you for the opportunity. What I'll do quickly is I'll give a quick introduction about who I am and what Mumbai Fintech Hub is. To begin with, a very good afternoon to all the listeners, all the attendees of the webinar. What I'll do is I'll quickly share my screen. Let me know once you can see my screen.
We can see your screen perfectly. Thank you.
Thanks, Restaurant. A quick introduction. My name is Gaurav Singhal. I look after all the startup engagements and innovations program at Mumbai Fintech Hub. Mumbai Fintech Hub was conceptualized as an entity to operationalize the fintech policy for the state. To quickly run through what the Maharashtra story is and how Mumbai is uniquely positioned to be the global fintech hub. Maharashtra has been one of the leading financial states in the country. Mumbai has been the financial capital for the country with the presence of all major regulators, major banks and major FIs present in the city, whether it's your regulators like RBI, SEBI, or your major banks like SBI, ICICI, HDFC, and the stock exchange, the Bombay Stock Exchange and National Stock Exchange. They found a base in Mumbai. So you have the right set of ecosystem present right at the location. When it comes to Maharashtra, Maharashtra was one of the first states in the country to put together a policy to support the sector, recognizing this as one of the sunrise sectors. When it comes to Maharashtra, some of the key benefits lined up around supporting the new entities or entities looking up to set up fintech ventures. So we have tried to create an investment network wherein we try and enable the early startups with early stage of funding through network connections, through introductions in the market, access to regulators and mentors who have now become part of the ecosystem, supporting you with working capital reimbursements in your early stages so as to reduce the burden in your setting up stages, and then creating soft landing programs for somebody who's looking to venture into India, how we can position Mumbai as the landing pad to sort of explore the Indian market and Southeast Asian market at large. So with that, I'll quickly give you an overview of how we've been structuring ourselves. As Hemant pointed out in our previous presentation, each major hub in the country has a unique offering, so to say. So while Mumbai has strong market connect with the presence of FIs, right set of regulators, so the ecosystem, the lay of land. Similarly, Bangalore has talent. Delhi has a lower cost of living. Focusing on these, we focused on what were the right set of enablers for startups to support them in their journey, create a platform for them to sort of champion upon, and then also plug in the gaps from a state perspective so as to startup need not migrate to other locations and have right set of ecosystem built to see the entire growth journey right there and there in Mumbai. So when speaking in terms of gaps, we identified there were 5 key areas where a startup was mainly looking for support. Support in terms of access to capital, access to reaching out to global markets to expand their business. Access to talent was one of the key problem areas which was pointed out by the startups, wherein it was easier for them to build up the product. However, to scale and mature the product to next stage, the right set of talent was missing in the state. Promoting open innovation, wherein supporting frequent iterations to the product or frugal iterations to the product was one of the key elements which fintechs were looking on. Then supporting and catalyzing the entire ecosystem where all stakeholders sort of can come together on a platform and engage with each other. These were some of the key verticals which were pointed out in some of our early discussions. And over the last 2.5 years, we have tried and focused on each of these verticals, creating different programs to sort of enable these fintechs see their next level of growth. The agenda with Mumbai Fintech Hub has been to position Mumbai as one of the leading global fintech hubs, much like your Singapores and the Londons of the world. In the journey of last 2.5 years, we have been able to engage with 500 plus fintechs across various programs we have been conducting. So we have had 45 plus programs conducted across different verticals, through which we have seen 500 plus fintechs partner. And these fintechs over the last 2.5 years have then raised more than 1,100 CR worth of market capital, which is roughly $120 to $130 million from market capital, external market capital, and have enabled 2,500 plus jobs in the state. Now, giving you a quick sense of how these programs are structured and what kind of programs there are provided by the state for enabling these ecosystems. So there are certain fiscal benefit programs. So the startups or the entities registered in the state can claim fiscal reimbursements, more so in the 4 categories of your rent, your electricity, your internet, and state tax. And the thought has been to really support or reduce down the burden of working capital in the early days while you're setting up your operations or you're building up your team. So any startup who's based out of Maharashtra can claim these benefits up to rupees 10 lakh for three financial years as per the defined criteria and post relevant due diligence. Apart from this, there is also a grant program wherein startups who are registered in the state are eligible for a grant support of up to rupees 10 lakhs. And the intention with this grant program was really to provide right set of platform and recognition to solutions in their early days and create more visibility in the market for these solutions. Beyond these fiscal programs, we have also tried and create a different approach to accelerator programs or market connect programs. Unlike your typical accelerator programs where one party is looking out for solutions, we have tried and promote something which is a multi-party accelerator, wherein we have incumbents from across the domain, whether it's an insurance player or a bank or an FI. And on the other hand, we have fintech solutions providing solutions right from your lending tech to insurance tech to your payments and even investment tech. And the idea has been to see how we can promote cross collaboration between not just incumbents and startups, but amongst the startups as well, where we are now seeing more consumer-centric solutions coming through this approach, where a startup who's working with, let's say, an individual service provider can now create an insurance policy which is much more focused to the provider with the help of an insurance company and somebody who's providing KYC or creating unique insurance product there and there. Apart from this, we also have an active registry of startups wherein we register startups from the state. As we speak, there are about 400 plus startups who are registered, and this becomes our first bouncing board for each of the activity we do in the state or to reach out to the to our startups. Beyond these, these are the three key initiatives from MFH perspective, which we have been working on for more than 1.5 years now. Find specifically is the investment in deals platform. The intention was how we can democratize access for startups who are registered in the country or registered in the state, and really enable the first level of introduction or early introduction to the investor community and make those pipelines slightly more robust. As we speak, there are more than the number has gone significantly up in last month or two. We have about 80 investors on the platform and about 200 plus fintechs who are registered on the platform. And the intention has been how we can create a better flow or a more systematic flow for investors to have a more refined look at the fintechs, making them aware of opportunities at a very early stage, realizing the potential very early. And from a fintech perspective, how we can enable that first introduction or democratizing the access, whether irrespective of what the founder has been doing in prior life, depending on the merit of the solution and the opportunity it presents, connecting them to the right set of investors and creating right set of visibility from an investment perspective. From a global market access perspective, while enabling the bilateral corridors much as this, the intention has been how we can create soft landing programs for startups who are looking inwards, and also enable startups from Indian territories who are looking outwards, enabling their journey in global markets, both in terms of market knowledge and then helping them build early business or support those early connects. From a soft landing programs perspective, we have two key programs for startups who are looking inwards and who are looking to explore Indian market. One is the India Entry Support Program, which I'll cover in the next slide, and the India FinTech Gateway. With both of the programs, the idea is how we can have right set of services and right set of programs to help you establish your base in Mumbai or in Maharashtra, represent Mumbai as one of the landing pads, and take care of the basic services which are required for you and for you to really focus on building your business in the territory. So as we speak, India Entry Support Program, which is a bouquet of services for somebody who's looking to venture into India, currently has about 12 to 13 partners in the platform, And these are services which somebody can leverage at a preferential rate, which are crucial in setting up. These could be your ROC compliance, etc. And the other program is focused upon sharing market knowledge, whether it's different domains in the Indian industry, as was previously briefed by Hemant. So having focused mentoring sessions depending on your domain and your interest, and then also supporting that early connect to the market with large financial institutions and banks who are partnered in the program. And the last program, which has been one of the focus areas, is focused around talent. It's called Uday. Realizing the gap when it comes to Mumbai as an ecosystem, as a startup ecosystem, we have realized while there is the right set of mix to create a product or build a product, to scale the product, there was a lack of talent to scale the product or to take the product to the next stage. And with MFH, the intention has been how we can create that right set of program or ecosystem to support that journey for the startup. With Uday program, we have our industry partners, our ecosystem partners who are actually helping us create the content for our local universities and early stage professionals or mid-career professionals. And then the idea is how we can create a seamless platform for fintechs and growing fintechs to absorb this talent who has been given an orientation about the space and who has taken the courses about the space and then utilize the talent in the best possible way. Speaking about the Global Market Access Program, the focus, as I told you, has been 4 parts. While focusing on international corridors, supporting Indian entities is explore global markets and vice versa. For these entities who are looking inward, we have created 2 programs. One is the India Entry Support. India Entry Support, in a nutshell, is a bouquet of services. This can be your ROC compliance, looking for space or co-working space, your marketing services, your regulatory and compliance advisory services, your tax consultancy services, your PR services, legal services. And these services are offered to startups registered with Mumbai Fintech Hub at a preferential rate compared to market. And the second set of services is offered through the India Fintech Gateway program, which is part of our market access initiative. And the intention with the Fintech Gateway is to offer access to knowledge and market in a more cohort style structured program for startups and entities who wish to enter India or explore this as a market. India Fintech Gateway, which I'm speaking of, is broadly categorized in 2 parts: the knowledge track and business development track. The knowledge track would comprise of knowledge sessions or mentoring sessions from industry experts from banking space on sessions like India Stack, from regulatory perspective, and from the Invest India entity, which essentially focuses on what are the programs from national perspective focused around supporting entities who are looking to set up in India, whether it's support in terms of setting up your team in India, support in visa, supporting in setting up your entity, directorships, etc., etc. And the second track, which is business development track, is focused on supporting those early introductions in the market. So there are about 15 corporates who have already registered on the platform, who have identified a particular interest in terms of technological requirements they are looking for. And this track focuses on matching that requirement with the fintechs who are partnered in the program. As we speak, the first cohort is live for the program, wherein we have curated 8 startups from more than 5 geographies who are now part of the program and are going through the entire curricula. Over the next few months, they'll be matched with various opportunities through this track, and will be matched with various corporate partners. And I would suggest this program as one of the good opportunities for startups who are looking to explore the Indian market. With that, those who are looking to engage with us, these are some of the coordinates. Now I'm happy to take any questions in terms of any programs or any support they would be looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav. Our third speaker is Mr. Xavier Korman. He is a serial entrepreneur and currently the director at Fintech Belgium. Fintech Belgium is the biggest community of fintechers in Belgium, representing every company directly or indirectly involved in the financial sector. Its mission is to actively and tangibly promote the fintech sector in Belgium and Belgian fintechs abroad. Mr. Korman will explain how Fintech Belgium helps their members and partners to achieve their international ambitions.
Hello to everyone. First, I would like to thank you for this invitation. Now I'm going to share my screen with you. I hope you see it. So
I see your screen very well. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. So yes, Fintech Belgium is a non-profit association. And more than that, it's actually the federation of the fintech sector in Belgium. And it's wider than only the fintech sector. We call it now the digital finance sector because we involve fintech, insurtech, accounting tech, regtech, etc. So we created this association 7 years ago. And we incorporated the association 5 years ago. So during 2 years, it was a really kind of amateur association, and now it's much more professional. And we have 3 missions. One, it's well, Babette said, to promote the fintechs, but it's also to create a single point of contact with the regulators, because almost all our members are regulated by the FSMA or the NBB. NBB is the National Bank of Belgium, because they have to apply the European regulations. And so our association is there to create a dialogue with the regulators and to motivate the regulators to apply the rules in a way that we can have a market with the emergence of new players and new startups and scale-ups. And the other mission is to share the information between the members and other countries. That's also very important because in Belgium we are at the heart of Europe, so we have a lot of interaction with other countries. All our members are fintechs. We have very strict conditions to accept members. So they have to prove that they are creating or they have new services related to financial and with technology. So we need innovative companies, etc. So far we have, I think it's 110 members in Belgium, which is high for the size of the country. And we are keep growing the number of members because the market is very active in Belgium, and so we see different cohort of new companies emerging in the country. So as I said, it's insurtech, regtech, accounting tech, fintech, trade tech. We are a small team. We are 4 operational people in the association, and then we have an extensive and very qualified board of members. This board is working pro bono in the association, so they are acting more like external advisors or people with a certain expertise to help us on the daily basis. How we do that? We organize a lot of events. That's something very important because we believe in sharing information and creating networks and creating links between the companies and between the entrepreneurs. And so we organize a lot of events of different kind. For example, we organize meetups, we organize workshops, we organize classrooms. To be very honest, since March of 2020, it's a little bit more difficult because of the COVID. So we moved from physical events to hybrid or digital events. And we have to say that it's a full success. So we have as many people today attending our digital events than before on physical events. The most difficult part is the networking part of the events, because even online with the new tools, it's not always very efficient to create networking, but it's possible. And once a year, what we do, it's a very large conference that we call Digital Finance Summit. It's a one-day event taking place in Belgium. Normally, it's or in Brussels or in the neighborhood of Brussels, can be in Flanders, for example, in Zaventem. And then in that day, we invite a lot of very qualitative speakers, politics, policymakers, entrepreneurs, CEO of corporate companies. So it's very interesting. And we have approximately between 500 and 600 delegates coming to attend this event. So I think it could be good if you want to know more about the Belgian markets to attend this summit. The next summit will take place on November 25th. And it's a full day event, and it will be most probably hybrid, so digital and physical event. Our community is large, especially if we compare with the size of the country. We have a few thousand followers in different social networks, and then when we communicate to this community, we have a huge impact. Because this community is very proactive, and so they are always looking for news, for new opportunities. So when we communicate to this community, we have always a lot of reactions. And since 2021, beginning of this year, we are setting up a hub, a digital finance hub in Brussels. It's a very large space, and we are talking about 7,000 square meters. So it's very, very, very large. It will be hosted in the center of Brussels, very close to the Grand Place, if you know a little bit Brussels. And this place is to welcome different companies from Belgium, but not only from Europe and elsewhere, if they want to join a place dedicated to digital finance. So it's good for fintech, insurtech, regtech. Then you can understand more the name FIRE. It's fintech, insurtech, regtech, etc. And then we build a lot of international relationships. Because we truly believe in the size of Europe and the added value of the European Union. And so we have a lot of exchanges with our neighbors, France, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, but also other European countries, and even more worldwide. And we have agreements with Israel, Singapore, Canada. We love to create interaction, and then to exchange information, and to invite speakers from other countries, and to invite delegates also to attend some events. So if you want to create interaction with your own hub or association, please feel free to contact us. We'll be very happy to do something together. And yes, here you can see the team of FinTech Belgium. And feel free to write us a small email, info@fintechbelgium.be. We'll be very happy to exchange with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Xavier. Your team looks very enthusiastic, so I think people won't hesitate to contact them. Our last speaker is Mr. Chazat Fatmi. He is the CEO India of the Flemish blockchain company Settlement. Settlement helps organizations leverage the benefits of blockchain technology by offering them their distributed middleware solution, Mint. Sajjad has over 15 years of work experience in credit and risk management, gained through working with the biggest financial institutions across Asia, Europe, and America. He will share his experience of leading Settlement's journey in India.
Hi, thanks, Babak, and thanks all the participants. So let me share my slide. 1 minute. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, good. Okay, hi everyone. So good evening and good afternoon in friends in Belgium and Europe. So I am going to talk about our experience to do business in India and of course why we choose India. And so you can see that the progression of settlement is overseas expansion is quite gradual. So we started in 2016 in Belgium, a city called Leuven, and which is very close to Brussels. And from there we expanded into Middle East as well as APAC in Singapore, and then we decided to open our office in India, and Delhi being and we decided to do it in Delhi, as our esteemed panel said that Delhi has some advantage and some disadvantage. And I agree with that, because Bombay is financial hub, Bangalore is talent hub, and Delhi is actually the capital. So, but in this age and time when everything is going digital, we don't find that as a problem in terms of attracting people. And we have found that in India, people are quite mobile if they find the opportunity quite attractive. So we have good teammates. We have onboarded excellent team. And why India actually? So as before me, both the speaker actually brought out that India is India is growing more than around 10% before the COVID. It's one of the fastest growing country, and in terms of new emerging technology and all those, adaptation is very high, very fast, and talent pool is huge. One example I will give you actually, that when we talk about talent pool, in less than 1 year, when we have started our operation, we have become the global delivery center of settlement. What it means that more than 50% of the project is being delivered from India, even though we are the last addition, not from Dubai, not from Saudi Arabia, not from Singapore. So India is the second largest team in terms of team size for settlement India. And we are very proud that even though we started just before COVID, the timing was not perfect, I will say, but still we are doing good actually. So that's about why we decided to open in India. India, of course, apart from being the global delivery center, India is also teaming up with opportunity. And we have experienced it. So I will not walk you through this slide, because everybody knows India is IT powerhouse. We have like more than 55% of the IT service I'm talking about, and a huge talent pool. Also, when it comes to technology, we have in our experience, government is actually very supportive, especially to startups and in terms of and the technological companies. And we have noticed when we see that when we approach the government officials and government entities, they actually are very open to discuss that how we can associate with each other. And in that, I will just give you one example. We are part of the Telangana T-Hub Accelerator program for their blockchain initiative, and it's a very, very good experience. It was very seamless onboarding. We are also, in contact with other government initiatives for technology, for the technology side, and we are quite hopeful. At least we don't see the resistance actually. So they are, much, I will say, on par in terms of, discussing the new technology on par with corporate actually. So in our opinion, of course, when we talk about this, so this is blockchain story I'm talking about in terms from our perspective. So when we see the use cases which is being actually talked about or adopted. You see the almost every state in India is actually doing some kind of experimentation with the blockchain technology, and blockchain has a very limited history. It's like 4 or 5 year old, and government taking such an initiative, I think it's quite commendable. We all know that Niti Aayog, in terms of governance, the Niti Aayog is one of the organizations which has actually taken very active role. NPCI is also the story of NPI. Everybody knows that they are, the payment success in India is actually the contribution of NPCI is very huge, and we have other success story in India. The one which we are talking about, TRAI, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, there the pesky call, unwanted call, actually that has gone on the blockchain, and it is quite successful. So in our experience, in terms of apart from the government, which industry are actually active, we see that of course healthcare, human resource, retail, and BFSI is industry leader actually, so adaptation. And recently we have also seen track and trace. Okay, government, of course, as I explained in my earlier, that government is one of the first mover actually. So a lot of government department, whether it's like agriculture, whether it's farm and healthcare, whether it's MEIT, they are doing a lot of experimentation, and our experience is quite good there. Of course, so if in a nutshell, the BFSI is actually leading, but this is also a bit old. Now I think this we don't have a exact number, but BFSI was almost 2/3 of the overall use case in blockchain space, followed by public sector, which was. But recently, in my experience, what we are seeing that public sector will be quite high, and BFSI will be a bit lower in terms of overall uses of blockchain technology. So we have a unique model. We provide end-to-end solution, because so when you speak about what is different from our global model and our India model. Okay, so in global model, which we I suppose this is very important to bring. Our global model is license based. There we expect our partner to take to utilize our platform and develop the solution on that. In India, we note this is also because the other component of blockchain application is very much like customizable. But we have taken another route, because when we did discussion with our prospective clients and partner, then we came to to an understanding that a wholesome solution will be more acceptable or palatable to Indian clients or in India overall. So that is actually a very big difference from our global business model to our India business model. So here you see the front end development, and then the so that part we don't do globally. That part is taken care by our system integrator or someone else, which we do, which we have globally. But in India, we have a team, and that actually provide end-to-end solution. So that is actually a basic difference, which we see. In terms of challenge, we've come across. We are still a startup. We are like 13 people in India. And the kind of reporting we do is, I suppose, on par with a lot of corporate actually, in terms of a lot of other things reporting. So we we expect that it could have been a slightly lower. We are not complaining. It's not a, we do the as per the law of the land, but at the same time, it would have been better if if there was a less number of, reporting and all those. In terms of experience, we always we are a bit behind the adaptation curve in corporate, because many time the startup are expected to take the upfront cost for the POC and all those, which sound strange actually. Even the big companies, they say, okay, give me the ROI now, explain. And in new technology, that is the challenge we face actually, to come out with to what is the ROI. And every management with whom we meet, they ask for, okay, I like this technology, I like this solution, tell me what is going to be my ROI. So in that case, we have two options. We try to work out, it's a number, but the number is actually, it's a futuristic number. And so it can be correct, it cannot, it may be wrong also. So there we see a lot. So not a lot of companies are actually very much ready to invest and become the harbinger of adopting new technology. They first want to see the technology to be established and then take the plunge actually. So that's something which we face sometime in corporate. Other than that, I think India is a tremendous market too, and our presence here and our has actually been has proved us correct. We are doing very well, both in terms of the India business as well as in terms of providing support to the global business. So that's our experience. I will be very, very happy to take any call, any question, or any if you have.
Thank you very much, Fatmi. I don't know if people have any more questions, then you can just raise your hands and we can mute you.
Babette, your sound is very echoey.
Okay. Yeah. Then can you take over, Koen, and ask if there are any more questions?
Now it's better. Now it's better.
Okay. So probably somebody's mic was still open. So my question was if there are any more questions. I see somebody raised his hand. Mr. Gupta? Can you unmute him, Koen?
Thank you. Thank you for organizing this session. I hope all of you are safe back in India. On settlement, now within TCS, we have a co-innovation network. I'm considering, to know more detail about settlement and see how it is applicable in Belgium for the banks and insurance companies here. Have you implemented settlement for anyone in Belgium?
Hi, Mr. Gupta. I will be very happy, I think, to walk you through. Just to give you an example, I will keep it very short. We have almost more than 45 use cases in production actually. So we are one of the largest, one of the company which has the largest amount of production grade deployment. In terms of Belgium, we have done quite a few: Carrefour, Colruyt, Standard Chartered. These are our clients actually in production. Okay. But what I will say that I suppose this is a company specific and not for everybody's else's interest. So
Okay.
we can get in touch, and I will be happy to walk you through all
Very good.
what we do.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think we're at the end of this webinar. In case there would be more questions, you can also always reach out to the office in Mumbai. Their mail address is mumbai@fitagency.com. We ran a little bit over time. Oh, there's still somebody who's raising a hand, or?
Yes.
Oh, Randa,
Babette.
sorry.
Yes.
Yes, please.
There is actually a question from, well, our own office Shoma. So she's put it in the chat. And that question is for Hemant, actually. Hemant, are you there?
Yes, Ranjan, I was just unmuting myself to answer that. So,
Okay.
Soma, within the RegTech space, let's break it down to components. One is RegTech that you're speaking about, which primarily will come into the KYC segment, and then the competition there is high, but there is still space. In fact, a UK-based company called Onfido is doing decently well within the KYC automation space, but it is a very regulation impacted space, and the regulation keep going back and forth on that. But that's a space where a lot of physical documentation was involved, and companies like Onfido, which is from UK, but then you have someone like Scienzy, which is based out of India, companies which are playing there well. The space which is regulatory reporting has not been that in depth taken care of, considering that any RegTech that comes to India will have to comply or modify their offering for the Indian banks and comply with the RBI regulations. But that's a space definitely people can get into, but that's more B2B. And the first space that I spoke about, which is more in the KYC domain, is more B2C and highly competitive segment, but more than enough market size.
Okay, so now I don't see any more hands, and Shoma says thank you. So then I think we can wrap it up for this afternoon for us for tonight. Thank you very much for being here. Please reach out if you have any more questions. Yeah, have a good evening. Stay safe. Bye.